Travis Reinking sat outside a Nashville Waffle House for several minutes before executing two men, going inside and executing another two. He would also injure four others. Now, his attorneys say he's not guilty by reason of insanity and that he was only doing what his God commanded. And don't miss my comments about this case and these bandits and Chad Daybell. Welcome to the weekly crime recap on Profiling Evil. Please make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button and take a minute. Consider joining our channel memberships. My favorite is the new Profiling Evil Academy, where you get special content not available anywhere else. Now, before we talk about Travis Reinking and the Nashville Waffle House murders, let's catch up on a few cases that I've been following. Chad Daybell's trial is still a year away, but his lawyer continues to put motions in front of the court, including his latest attempt to get more time so that he can file a motion to dismiss the case. More time than January of 2023? I mean, Daybell was arrested more than 18 months ago. What is going on? And while all of this is happening, a new book by author John Glatt is out. It's called The Doomsday Mother. This book was released at breakneck speed, and it highlights something that many people missed. Glatt called out a text that Chad Daybell sent to his former wife. You remember Tammy, the one that he's accused of killing? Well, the text was sent at 11:35 in the morning, and it stated that he just killed a raccoon and buried it in the family's pet cemetery out back. Well, when an investigator saw this tweet sometime later, he put two and two together. Think about this. Rarely do you see a raccoon in the daytime. These are nocturnal animals. Here's a video of some of those rascals that I caught in a tree in my backyard a few nights ago as they tried to tear down my wife's bird feeder. Well, before long, investigators were exhuming J.J. Vallow and his sister Tylee Ryan's bodies from the alleged killer's backyard. By the way, I don't believe they ever found a raccoon, even though law enforcement sifted through every inch of dirt by hand. And speaking of raccoons, if you want one, get a hold of me. As you can see, I have a few more than I want. Well, let's talk about law enforcement for a minute. Did you hear about the 16-year-old gang member who shot a New York City police officer a few weeks ago when he pulled a gun from his pant pocket as the officer was approaching him to investigate a call for disorderly conduct? The officer and his partner attempted to wrestle the weapon away from the gangster, but the suspect pulled the trigger, shooting himself in the groin. Well, that bullet sadly traveled through his body and struck the officer in the leg. The weapon used had been reported stolen out of South Carolina, and once in jail, police discovered that this gang member was on probation for a different illegal gun case. He was charged with attempted murder. But here's what's really bugging me about this case. The teen, a budding rap artist, just signed a deal with a record company, and he used the money from that record deal to post bail. My hope is this record company cancels his contract, just like the theater company terminated the actress's contract who sent this viral TikTok video complaining about New York City mourning the death of New York police officer Jason Rivera.
Do not need to shut down most of lower Manhattan because one cop died for probably doing his job incorrectly. They kill people who are under 22 every single day for no good reason, and we don't shut down the city for them.
Let's not forget about the men and women we call to help us when we're terrified and threatened. And with that in mind, let's jump down to Nashville and talk about the Nashville Waffle House shooting. But I want to start first with the heroic young officer who testified on the first day of the Travis Reinking murder trial. Many people think that police officers are hardened souls who aren't emotionally impacted by the horrors they witness on the job. We can accept people like this great young man named James Shaw, the hero who wrestled the assault rifle from Ranking's grip, that he could be emotional, but for some reason, not cops. Well, for those of you who wonder, please take a moment and find the testimony of this officer online. You can find it at Court TV. He was the first responding officer to the Waffle House that day. You will not be able to deny the emotional impact of being a first responder, especially in cases like this, and how it can live on in their memories for their entire life. I can personally testify to the impact that such horrors like these, especially violent crime scenes, can have on your psyche. They never go away, and they pop up at the worst times. Well, the prosecutor did an amazing job as she explained to the jury what this case is all about. Her emotions were controlled, but the impact was evident. The defense won't be arguing that Travis Reinking is the killer. Instead, they hope that the jury will find him not guilty by reason of insanity. Watch a portion of my comments about the opening statements on Court TV. Let's watch.
Joining us is special guest from Salt Lake City, Utah, Mike King. He's a retired police commander and the host of Profiling Evil. And there is Mike. I see him there. Mike, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the program. It's always great to talk with you. Mike, you know, we're in the midst of the opening statements. We saw the states open. We're seeing some of the defense open. The court took a quick recess. What's your assessment so far of this case and the difficulties you see that both sides are going to be facing?
Well, I thought the prosecutor was so compelling and obviously emotionally impacted by this herself, having to watch all of this evidence and put together this case. I thought she did a fantastic job of laying out the complexities of the case, the emotion of the case, tried to prepare the jury for what they're going to see, which I believe is going to be horrendous with the video that they have. But all around, I just thought she did a fantastic job of laying out that this was a premeditated event. I was surprised and really pleased with the defense and the way they came out swinging. And while, like you said, they're not going to be contesting this, they're going to be pushing that this is a mental health issue and that this individual can't be held to the same standard that others might be held to. And so this is going to be really interesting to see the behaviors leading up to this event. It's going to be really interesting to look at the behaviors and what I term to be pre-planning as this individual sat in the parking lot preparing to go inside, and then the things that he did to get away with it.
Right. Mike King, always great to have your assessment of the cases that we cover here on Court TV. And this one,
any person who commits a horrible act like this would certainly have to be crazy. And this guy is giving the defense a number of historic behaviors which the prosecution's going to have to counter. It's clear that Reinking has a history of wacky behavior. I mean, at one point, he told others and the police that country music singer-songwriter Taylor Swift was stalking him. His co-workers also reported him saying he was paranoid and his behavior was disruptive, even frightening at times. On one occasion, Reinking threatened a group of people near his home with an assault rifle while wearing a pink dress. The alleged killer also appeared at a public school wearing a pink woman's house coat. So apparently pink is like a favorite color. There, he was acting odd and exposing himself. And things really escalated when this guy showed up in Washington, D.C. at the White House, claiming he was a sovereign citizen and demanding to see then-President Donald Trump. He was arrested when he refused to leave, and he crossed a barrier toward the White House. Well, he had his weapons taken away, but somehow, some speculate through his father, he got access to those weapons once again, and that's going to be an interesting point to follow. But for those of you who might be wondering what a sovereign citizen is, a sovereign citizen believes that they should decide which laws need to be adhered to and which laws can be ignored. They don't recognize the authority of judges, juries, law enforcement, or elected officials. The Southern Poverty Law Center says their mindset doesn't support government, and most who claim sovereign rights don't believe that they should have to pay taxes. Well, I don't think any of us would like to pay taxes, but you got to. You know, taxes, the money that pays for roads, infrastructure, clean drinking water. Yet it seems that these sovereign citizens are taking advantage of all the benefits of living in a democratic society, like driving on our roads. Well, let's not forget that Reinking showed up at the Waffle House wearing only a short green coat, no other clothing. All of these elements could support the belief that Reinking is mentally ill. And I'm going to leave that determination to the prosecution experts, who will undoubtedly argue that he's sane. Now, they'll be countered by defense experts, who will also argue that he's insane. Regardless, I hope that they explore a few things that have really stuck out to me in this case, all surrounding Reinking's behavior. First, I want to know what they know about Reinking's writings, his manifestos, conversations, and beliefs regarding race and racism. Remember, Reinking is Caucasian, and his victims are people of color. That's right, 3 were African American, the 4th was Latino. Was it purposeful or just the luck of the draw that it was 4 people of color? Now, I hope that the trial sheds light on this topic and what the demographic was for this case. The other question I have is, what was he doing during that 4 minutes that he sat outside the restaurant? Was he working up the nerve to go commit the homicides? Perhaps he was evaluating potential targets inside to see where his greatest threat was and how he could best approach the occupants for a maximum kill. It could be that he was having second thoughts, but his defense is going to argue that he was actually waiting for inspiration from the God that he believes in. That inspiration came in the form of a young man named Tareen Sanderlin, who walked out of the restaurant wearing a hat with the number 3 on it. Somehow, that was the sign that Reinking needed, and he jumped from his truck, grabbing his rifle, pointed at the young man, shooting him. Not once, folks, but 5 times. Joe Perez just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was in the parking lot fixing a flat tire, and when the shooting started, he instinctively moved toward that first victim, but upon seeing the danger, he turned and tried to run. Reinking executed him with 7 shots. Listen as Joe's friend describes the murders that he witnessed, and thanks to CNN for this.
As I got out of my car, he got out of his truck, naked except for a jacket, an assault rifle, shot a gentleman that was standing at the door, turned and shot my buddy T, who was trying to get away down the sidewalk. He stood out in front of the restaurant and shot a few shots through the windows.
Well, once inside the business, Reinking kept shooting until he either ran out of ammo or the weapon jammed. All we know for sure is that at this point, the weapon was pulled from his hands by a young man named James Shaw, who struggled with him, gained control of it, and threw it over the counter near the kitchen. As it was discovered later by police, the magazine was out of the weapon. The chamber was open. This suggests that Reinking either ran out of bullets and was changing magazines, or he had a jam and was trying to clear the jam. Either way, he ejected the magazine. It was a blessing, actually, that it happened this way, because it's what led to the active shooting coming to a close. Well, as Shaw and Reinking wrestled, Reinking slipped from his jacket and he ran naked into the night. Now, this leads me to another question that I hope gets answered during this trial. Was Reinking planning out this assault? Are there other pieces of evidence recovered that would support this? And I'm going to be looking to see if that comes out in the trial. And this one, are you insane if you can put together a plan, premeditate it, and execute it? Now, if his defense is that God made him do it, Why didn't he just remain behind and confirm with arriving officers that he needed to do what God had instructed? No, instead, this coward runs off and conceals himself from capture for nearly 35 hours. He didn't turn himself in. He hid. He had to be captured. Now, I've often wondered about a question of insanity when defendants put such effort into the planning and execution of a crime, including the escape. These actions point to a person who's able to put thoughts together in an orderly fashion. But the escape, in my opinion, suggests that the offender understood that murdering 4 people and hurting another 4 people was against society standards. Regardless, this predator chose to violate those standards. Now, what are your thoughts about these cases? I'm going to be watching for your comments down below, and thanks for weighing in. If you were on the jury on the Reinking case and you had to vote today, what would your vote be? Well, make sure you check out the entire Court TV discussion on the case on their news channel. This one is heating up and the trial is going to be interesting, but I think it's going to be fast moving. You can find Profiling Evil on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you like podcasts, make sure you get Profiling Evil on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, don't forget, check us out on the World Wide Web at profilingevil.com. And once again, consider joining our channel memberships, especially the new Profiling Evil Academy. The links are below. And again, hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for your support. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.